If you are watching this, it's because the universe has guided you here to challenge one of life's most painful experiences, the loneliness that comes from struggling to make real friends. You may feel surrounded by people, yet sense an invisible wall separating you from genuine connections. Understanding the root causes behind your friendship challenges can catalyze an incredible spiritual awakening. Now, let's get started with the 5 key reasons why you may be having trouble making and keeping close friends. Number 1. You judge others and yourself too harshly. From childhood, we're conditioned to judge someone's looks, personality, social status. We put people into buckets of who we consider acceptable or unacceptable. This habit of judging doesn't just apply only to others, though. We judge ourselves extremely harshly, too. Kids learn from these judgmental tendencies from the adults around them, the media they consume, and the societal messages about what is good or bad. Before long, being critical becomes second nature, like a reflex. Judging other people creates an invisible barrier that blocks you from making friends. You view others through a harsh lens, nitpicking at their flaws and imperfections instead of appreciating their positive qualities. You expect perfection from people, writing them off completely if they make even one mistake or don't live up to your standards. Ultimately, carrying around all this heavy judgment stems from a rigid mindset, an unwillingness to see the infinite varieties and shades of beauty in human beings. The antidote? Practice looking within before judging others. When you feel irritated by someone's behavior, pause and ask yourself, what's really bothering me here? You may realize the judgment you're casting outward actually says more about your own insecurities than it does about their character. Maybe their bragging reminds you of your struggle with insecurity. Their messiness triggers your need for control. Exploring your reactions non-judgmentally can bring self-awareness. As you soften against judging yourself so harshly, you'll naturally extend that same compassion outward to others. You'll stop getting hooked on little imperfections and flaws and start appreciating the inherent worth in all human beings. Once freed from the burden of constant criticism weighing you down, rich, true connections can finally grow. You'll make space to see the beauty in each person's quirks. Constantly judging is utterly draining and exhausting. It's like carrying around a heavy backpack filled with boulders of criticism everywhere you go, towards others, but also toward yourself. With all that immense weight on your shoulders, how can you be open, present, and vulnerable enough to make new friends? The backpack of judgment blinds you, allowing you only to see people's flaws while blocking you from recognizing their wonderful positive qualities. You're always hunting for reasons to write them off instead of accepting them wholeheartedly. But if you can summon the courage to simply set down that heavy loaded judgment, even for a moment, you'd be amazed by how many good, imperfect, yet lovable people are all around you, waiting to accept you with your own imperfections as well. Number 2, you're trapped in the fantasy of being isolated. We're raised to believe we're all separate individuals. From an early age, we learn, I am me and you are you. We're not the same. This makes sense on one level. We each have our own body, mind, and personality. But there's a deeper truth. We are all connected. Imagine the entire universe as a vast web, with each person being a vibrant strand. All the strands interweave and join as one. When you feel disconnected from others, it's because you've brought into the fantasy that your strand is separate. But just like each strand is part of the same web, each of us is part of the same universe. Realizing your innermost self is eternally connected with all other beings is liberating. Suddenly, everyone feels like family. Their twists and flaws become beautifully human, not reasons to judge. You mirror acceptance and compassion, allowing genuine friendships to blossom. Think about a time you instantly connected with someone, feeling an easy understanding like you'd known them forever. That magical connection happened because you were both, if only briefly, free from the illusion of separation. You looked past surface differences and tapped into the united essence you share. All the usual judgments and walls dissolved, allowing you to simply be two humans enjoying each other's presence. When you live from that interconnected space consistently, it becomes second nature to form deeply bonding friendships everywhere you go. Number 3, fear paralyzes you. So many people crave deep friendships, but fear holds them back from pursuing connections wholeheartedly. Common fears that most people have include, first, fear of rejection. You want to make friends, but get frightened by the pain of someone disliking you. So you play it safe, keeping people at arm's length. But doing so ensures you'll never experience intimacy. Second, fear of being judged. You censor yourself heavily, assuming others will judge you just as harshly for showing vulnerability or imperfections. But authentic bonds can only form when you take off your metaphorical mask. And third, fear of getting hurt. Maybe you've been betrayed before. That scar tissue makes it scary to trust someone new. But clinging to past pain blocks you from giving and receiving love in the present. All fears eventually derive from the same root cause, feeling imperfect and unworthy of love. Countering that belief requires continuously building your self-love. Affirm daily, I am inherently worthy, flaws and all. As you cuddle yourself unconditionally, your fear turns into courage. You become willing to vulnerably open up, share your true self, and extend trust, the gateways to emotional and fruitful friendship. Think of a time you overcame fear and put yourself out there. Maybe asking someone to hang out outside of your normal routine. Maybe it was awkward at first, but eventually you shed your normal social mask a little and saw the real you. If that person responded with acceptance rather than judgment for your flaws, it likely allowed your friendship to deepen over time. That's how durable bonds are built. Extending trust, even if it's scary, gives others permission to be vulnerable too, until you're both relating as your raw, imperfect selves. Number 4, you're trapped in ego. Ego is the voice that constantly demands to be right, to look good, to get attention. It loves drama, conflict, and one-upsmanship. The ego is concerned only with yourself, getting your needs met with no awareness of others. Operating from ego, you appear self-absorbed, unable to truly hear another's perspective. You struggle to experience genuine empathy or emotional attunement. Real friendship requires putting your ego aside and making space energetically for another soul. The spiritual path involves a continuous process of becoming more awake, of untying your eternal spirit from your ego identity. Each time you choose humility over needing to be right, compassion over judgment, or patience over impulsivity, your ego's grip loosens. As you surpass ego's never-ending self-absorption, you open to the beauty of intimacy. You appreciate the different beliefs and journeys that make each friend uniquely glowing. Freed from selfish games, you become a beneficial source of empathy and care. Has there been a time you were so consumed with being right or getting attention that you blocked out someone trying to share something personal? Maybe you talked over them, shifted the subject back to yourself, or fired off a defensive reply or answer. That moment of ego highlights how easily we can miss genuine connection. But when you catch yourself and consciously get the ego out of the way, you can course correct by listening intently, validating their perspective, and showing your supportive presence. These caring actions breathe life into the friendship. Number 5, you demand perfection. In the fantasy world of idealized expectations, a perfect friend always makes you a priority, never lets you down, agrees with everything you say, and fits a specific checklist. But in reality, all people are delightfully human, meaning beautifully flawed and ever-evolving. When you hang to perfectionist demands, you continually feel disappointed, building resentment over inevitable disappointments. Maybe a friend couldn't make your birthday gathering. Maybe they shared a different political view. You take it as a personal rejection rather than accepting their inherent imperfections. No relationship can survive the pressure of constant inspection through a harsh perfectionist lens. Real intimacy develops through radically accepting others exactly the way they are. Inconsistencies, ever-shifting opinions, and all. This expansive acceptance creates safety for vulnerability and truthfulness to deepen. From a spiritual perspective, nobody is perfect because we're all still just students, playing on the earthly stage to learn profound soul's lessons. Expecting perfection actually disconnects you from the inherent beauty and divinity within each friend's imperfect humanity. Do you have that one friend who seems to sail through life, their successes and positive qualities making you feel dimly inferior at times? It's perfectly natural to sometimes feel pains of jealousy for what you imagine is their perfection. But the disappointing truth is, they are just as delightfully imperfect and struggling as you are in their own ways. You're simply unaware of their private worries, awkward moments, and insecurities. Celebrate your shared humanity, and you'll find you can relate to their experience much more than you realized. True friends don't need to pretend perfection around each other. The path to finding your people or emotional friends requires an inside-out approach. It starts by realizing that your deepest self is eternally connected with all other beings, letting go of the fantasy that you are a separate, isolated individual. From that space of oneness, you can soften against the harsh self-judgment and unrealistic expectations that create invisible barriers between you and others. Be a warrior for self-compassion, accepting all your perfectly imperfect, unusual habits and flaws with kindness. As you shower yourself with unconditional love, your heart naturally opens to treating others with immense kindness too. Let go of your ego's constant need to be right or appear perfect and breathe into basic vulnerability. Having the courage to show up authentically, without masks or disclaimers, knowing true friends will honor your trust. Approach each person's reality with deep empathy and patience, seeking to understand their interior experience as if it were your own. Finally, soulful friendship grows through accepting the totality of one another's journey, the celebrated wins, growing lessons, and every littered imperfection. From that love, your perception shifts to celebrate our shared, delightfully imperfect human nature. Ironically, it's leaning into your imperfect reality that brings you ever closer to experiencing unconditional bonds, the very perfection you wanted all along. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, leave a like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is just the beginning. Stay tuned.